In today's show, my friend Chuck joins and we do over-unders for everything up and down the Blazers roster. Damian Lillard three-point shooting, Anfernee Simons scoring average, and how much Shaedon Sharpe plays. It's a whole bunch of fun. Welcome to Locked On Blazers. Let's get into it.
You are Locked On Trailblazers, your daily Portland Trailblazers podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What up, world? It's your past first point guard and Trailblazers reporter, Mike Richmond. You're listening to another episode of Locked On Blazers, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, available wherever you get podcasts and also on YouTube. Thanks for making the show your first listen every single day. Free on all platforms, 5 days a week. The only daily Trailblazers podcast. Why not make it part of your daily routine and listen to Locked On Blazers every day? If you're listening to today's show, you're in for a treat. One of the most fun episodes we do every single year. I am joined by my friend Chuck, Charles Tuggle, and we are sent over-unders by listener Ben. Ben, nobody's doing it better than Ben in the over-under game, and Charles and I are going to go through all of them, talk pretty much hit everybody on the roster talking over-unders. Charles, thank you for coming back for your at least once annual, biannual. I don't know what biannual means. Does that mean every other year? Your regular visit to the podcast.
Yeah, we did one last year, and we did a checkup too, I think, because I discovered some notes whenever I was putting something down for this in my Google Docs, but It wasn't even an end of the year checkup. I don't think. I think it was like a 3/4 year.
Yeah, we checked it at mid-season because the roster had totally changed, and we were wrong about we got maybe all of them wrong.
Things were different.
We did really poorly because the whole roster turned over and everything changed. So this is a snapshot of now. You're listening to Friday, October 14th show. When we get all of this wrong in February, just remember that this is what we thought in October, and maybe we sounded correct. But this one is a ton of fun. So if you are a new listener, welcome. I'm super happy to have you. If you have a friend who you're trying to get into the show because the season is here, throw them this one. It's a fun one because we're going to touch on everything. Charles, let me shout out Ben real quick. I believe it's Ben _ Sprouse on Twitter, but let me make sure that Ben gets the proper. I imagine Ben doesn't care about the Twitter love, but yeah, we got at Ben _ Sprouse on Twitter. Ben sends these every year and they rock. We're going to compliment you throughout the show, Ben, because I think we like these lines a bunch, but thank you so much to Ben. Charles, you ready to do this?
Let's do it.
First one, Damian Lillard's three-point shooting over under 37% from three on the season. Where are you at?
I'm thinking under. I'm thinking that the team maybe needs Dame to do too much, which Dame is always willing to do. Maybe sometimes in the best of ways, maybe sometimes in not as great ways. But maybe this results in a lesser quality shot selection. I expect him to have a great year. That's a big story for this season, but I'm thinking it's a little under this high volume.
Sure. If it was at 36%, where are you? Still over under 36?
Yeah, maybe over.
Yeah. So, okay,
I think I'm close here.
You're very close to the line. So I'm over. I think I'm generally a believer in Dame's jump shooting. He shot under 33% from three last year, 32.4% in his 29 games with the Blazers. But the prior two seasons, over 10 attempts a game, 39%, and over 10 attempts per game, 40%. We've got pretty good examples of him being a high volume gunner. You've watched a lot of Blazer games in your time. You've seen it. We've been there for a handful of them. But I do agree with you that the offense looks such that it won't be as smooth and as fluid and as, they don't look like a top 5 offense right now. So I understand your maybe concern here, but I'm going over. I'm glad we disagree on the first one. I got another one for you. Over under Anfernee Simons, 21.7 points per game. And as Ben notes, because Ben's the best, this is CJ's average points per game from the 2015 season to the 2021 season. That was a 6-year average of CJ. He's basically a 22-game scorer. 21.7 for Ant, over or under?
Yeah, I'm going under here. Also thinking of team harmony, balance, who's getting shots up, and Jerami Grant, I think, deserves some shots. So many to go around last year when Ant was getting his run and having his good stuff. But to be close to CJ sort of consistency for those years would be a great thing for the Blazers. But I'm going under here.
Yeah, I'm also under. I think this is a really good line. Like I think Ant is going to average like 20. Like I think he's going to be right in that range.
Yeah, 19, 18.
Yeah, but I'm with you on the Jerami Grant thing. I think Jerami Grant soaks up just enough offense that there isn't that Ant isn't averaging a consistent 22. I'd be surprised. I probably am higher than you. I'm probably above I probably think he'll be out of the teens just because of the way the offense is going to work. But I would say Anfernee Simons, if I have a criticism of him so far, like I don't think he played very well in preseason, but nobody did. So like whatever. Jerami Grant played pretty well in preseason, but I wish Ant was a little more selfish in preseason. I feel like there was some times where he could have just launched a 3-pointer the moment he caught it, and he didn't. Maybe that's just the feeling out period and all of those things, and maybe he'll be selfish. But you want good shooters to shoot it, right? Like that's like a key.
Yeah,
so
maybe he gets more catch and shoots this year too. That can keep his points per game up.
In theory, he's going to get more catch and shoot attempts. We'll see how it works in practice, but in theory, yeah, right. Like he's going to be, he's like
one of the league best at that last year, wasn't he?
Yeah, he was. The last 2 years, he's ranked above in the with the good folks at B-Ball Impact catch and shoot numbers. He's 95th percentile. I believe he's in the high 90s as well over on Ben Falk's indispensable stat site as well. So yeah, like. He might blow past this, right? Like if we're both wrong, that's good news. It's good news for us if we're both wrong.
Yeah, that's great.
Yeah. Over under 45 games started for Nassir Little.
Yeah, this is a tough one. That's the big question around just lineup issues right now. Preseason going into the season, how that's going to change, who's going to fit in at the 3 spot. I'm going under here. Yep. I think there's so many other options. Like the dilemma is just leaning to me saying he's not going to start over half of the games.
Exactly. That's the thing. Like, it's going to be Josh Hart on night 1, which means that that's not going to change it on night 2. So you thinking like that's 6, 7, 8 games before you like totally scrap the starting lineup, at least 5. So now it's like, does he start 45 of the remaining 77? Okay, he's got to be healthy. He's got to it's a bunch of things. I'm under 2. This is a pretty easy under for me. I think 35 would have been a line where I started to say, okay. But I wouldn't have thought this. Like, and Ben, to be clear, Ben sent these to me like a week ago, so things have changed a little bit. So yeah, I'm easy under. I don't think Nas hits 45 starts. It'd be better for the Blazers if he was good enough to start 45 games. Like,
yeah, if you can sort of plug and play all sorts of those guys in the position and get that productivity and the balance in the starting or otherwise lineups, that's a good thing.
Yeah, we'll talk about Josh Hart here in a second. I got one more for you. Gary, I got like a million more for you, but I got one more for you here. Gary Payton II, over under 19 and a half minutes per game, 19.5 minutes per game for Gary Payton II.
Over. I'm believing in GP2's versatility and ability to fit into a few different sort of lineups. Plays pretty big for his size, and obviously can play with those small lineups and provide value at a few different solid NBA things.
Yeah,
I'm going over here.
I am also over. I don't know what the line is that I wouldn't go over. I think it's probably 24, but I'm over. I think he's going to play a bunch. This is one of those that like we could be wrong because like if the roster changes over, maybe he doesn't play as much because they need somewhere else. But I think he got paid. They paid him to be. They paid him to be part of this. Right. They paid him to be part of this. They pursued him, and they really need a point of attack defender. Like the defense in the preseason, they're just letting people get past them. You've seen it. Just, I don't need to convince you, but you, dear listener, like they're letting people get past them. They need someone who can stop the ball at the point of attack, and GP is that guy. News today, as we're recording this, the Blazers announced that Gary Payton will miss at least the first 2 weeks of the regular season. He's still recovering from abdominal surgery that he had in July, and he will be reevaluated in 2 weeks. That doesn't mean he's going to return in 2 weeks. That sounds like he's probably going to return in at least 3 weeks, typically how that works. But at least the first 2 weeks of the season. Hasn't been cleared for 5-on-5 stuff. Hasn't done anything in training camp. I guess he did ride the bike and was on the broadcast. So he did that during training camp. It's pretty funny on the broadcast. If you got to see that clip, he's check it out over on
He
our
chuckles,
Yeah, he laughed.
Get into team culture. All right.
Yeah, exactly. He seems like I am rooting for him to be part of the plan because he's funny and likable. Like he's a great personality. So from a selfish media standpoint, I'm like, come on, GP.
Over.
Yeah, over. Get him in there. All right, we got more overs. We got more over-unders sent to us by Ben, and we will do that in the second segment. Today's show is brought to you by betonline.net. The fastest and easiest way to bet on all of your sports action. They got more lines, more props, more odds than ever before. Before the season starts, you can get in all of your over-under win totals for every single team in the league. And then once the NBA starts popping off, you can bet in-game, you can bet pre-game, lines, props, odds, everything you want all season long on every single NBA game. If you don't want to bet on basketball, they got everything else covered, including football season with the NFL and college football rolling along all weekend, every weekend, all winter. So check it out. That's Bet Online, where the game starts. All right, Charles, we got a couple more over-unders sent to us by Ben Strauss. You ready for these?
Let's go.
Yeah, you looked ready. Okay, Jusuf Nurkic over-under 28 minutes per game.
I gotta scroll up my documents, but I know
the answer
is under.
On you. Yeah, I moved these around on you. Sorry.
Just had to check if I was thinking something else, but under. This has been an issue in his career of just sort of consistent minutes played, not to mention other sort of consistent or inconsistent productivity. I'm going under here. Maybe the fact that we don't have too many big backups affects that if he stays healthy and fit, but under.
Yeah, I'm under as well. Like he's been a foul machine in preseason. There's a lot of talk about him being out of shape, and I think Chauncey Billups even acknowledged it today that Nurk is just like, even playing in Bosnia, it's not this, or playing with the Bosnian national team at Eurobasket, it's just not the same shape that you need to be in to play what the Blazers, like NBA style basketball, and what the Blazers want to do, because he's being asked to do a lot defensively, and he's asked to set a bunch of screens, and it's just a big ask for him. Even when he was playing like close to his peak, he was playing like, at his sort of peak 29 minutes a night. I think the combination of being out of shape early, maybe being a little foul prone, and the Blazers being pretty comfortable going small, at least in theory. We haven't really seen it, but at least in theory, comfortable going small. I'm under on Nurk at 28 minutes per game. I don't think he dips more than 26 because, as you mentioned, like not a lot of other options. So
yeah.
He's not going to be much lower, but I'm under 28 per game. The next one, Jerami Grant, over under 3.5 3-point attempts per game.
Over. I like the Jerami Grant inclusion for a number of reasons. As one is hopefully some open 3-point shooting opportunities.
Yeah,
he was well over that in his Detroit days. Different role, different fit, different expectations. So I wouldn't expect that. He was at like 6 like a year ago or 2 years ago, 6 3-point attempts a game. So I'm going over here.
I got it in my notes. 5.4 last season, 6.1 with Detroit his first year there. In Denver, where he had maybe a role that we think is somewhat similar to what he'll get with the Blazers, 5.5 excuse me, I'm looking at the wrong column. 3.5 attempts per game in Denver, and in OKC 3.7 attempts. I think it's that 3.5 number is what Ben got it from, is when he was a role player, it was about 3.5. Oh, I'm over. I think he's going to play a boatload of minutes, and I think he's going to be I think he's a big part of the offense. The question is, like, can he get rid of, he has a little tendency to take long twos, a little long two heavy.
Some disciplined shooting could help.
Yeah, exactly. Cutting out the long two diet, and then you get 3.5. I'm over 3.5 for Jerami as well, but I do think it's a good line. I think 3.5's like, it's right there. Like we can put the line at 3.8, Ben. We got you. We got you. He's over. Okay, next one, Josh Hart. Over under 49.5 games played for the Portland Trail Blazers. Let me give you a little context before you answer this one. Game 50, you can't change your answer, by the way. Game 50 is January 30th. The trade deadline is February 9th. By February 9th, they will have played 55 games if he's traded the day of the deadline. Does Josh Hart get to game 50? Over under 49.5 games played for Jay Hart?
Yeah, this one threw me off a little bit, and I was troubled by the implications of the question just because it revolves around trades, and he's certainly an asset that you'd include in a lot of trades, almost any trades.
Yeah,
when he's good enough, but maybe not good enough to stay. It's it's a special role in the NBA, but a known one, as just a known asset as well. I'm going over just because I like him as a player. I feel like I'm just fanning on this one. I'm going over. I like him as a player. I want to see how he fits with our squad.
Yeah, you want him to play, right? Like
I actually believe in him, kind of.
Yeah. I'm going under just because I think they have to trade him, and say
the trade has to be coming then at some point.
He'll miss a game with like the flu or something, and then he'll get traded a day before the trade deadline, and he'll play 49 games. Like it's I think is a really, really fun one. What do you think about Josh Hart at small forward? Like he's going to start at small forward. What are your feelings on that?
I think in an ideal basketball scenario for Josh Hart, I think he's playing like the 4 or.
Yeah, no, I mean he
maybe even a small ball 5 in like moments in playoffs or something.
I'm not going that far with you, but he has some power forward.
I maybe
tendencies.
like him just in bigger role in smaller lineups, ideally. But that sort of versatility or switchability is helpful in that role.
Yeah,
in the 3, that is.
Yeah, I don't love him as a 3 or a 4 next to Damon Ant. Like if he wasn't next to Damian Lillard and Anfernee Simons, I like Josh Hart as power forward is like interesting to me. Like I think he can play 3 and 4 fine in a different scenario. Like I think he can guard threes, but it's like you'd be better off if he didn't have to guard every single big 3. And he was, like you said, like this switchy, smaller, like jack of all trades kind of Swiss Army knife, which I think is what they envisioned him as, to be clear. Like they envisioned having Gary Payton healthy, and they envisioned having Nas take a step forward and Justise Winslow. And so like the position specifically would matter less. Like what position Josh Hart is playing would matter less because they have defensive versatility. But with the starters and next to those two, I mean, I don't even think Josh Hart's bad. I just think it's like, I'm with you. I really like his game. He's just, it's not a perfect fit. It's not a perfect fit. And I feel like you get less out of Hart because what he's really good at on offense is with the ball in his hands as a decision maker, as a driver. And I think that also kind of mutes some of his offensive, what he can offer you on the offensive end. Like his impact is muted, is the word I've been searching for and failing, because he's playing with Ant and Dame and Jerami Grant. And like, if you're going to throw a guy a bone on the starting lineup, it's going to be Nurk. Like if you're going to be like, okay, we got to get another guy a touch, you're going to throw it into the big fella. So I'm a big Josh Hart believer. I'm not a very big Josh Hart believer as this version of the Portland Trailblazers starting small forward, but we'll see. I mean, we're talking 4 preseason games. Like I have been really down on this team, admittedly, in the preseason, but like I also very much recognize that we're talking about 4 exhibition games and then a 5th exhibition game where they didn't even play anybody. I mean, they played Shaedon Sharpe and he went nuts, but like it's just not the same.
Big questions around those spots, looking forward to a larger sample size, but also just real games flat out.
Yeah, exactly. Same. It's like I want to like learn more, but it's like what I want to see is just play a game that matters, where you have to play guys into the 4th quarter and you have to make decisions like, hey, we're down to win a game. Yeah, we're down 6 with 7 minutes left. Who are the dudes I want on the court? I'm with you on that. So let's see some real basketball. Okay, over under. Justise Winslow, 2.0 assists per game. 2.0.
I'm under here. I think Winslow has those passing skills and abilities he's shown in his career, but he's had so many interruptions to his seasons and his whole career. So I'm betting against him here. Under. It's kind of like the reliability of Hart that I'm backing. I'm not backing in Justise Winslow's case. But a part of that just chimera kind of players, right? Wing players with all these different skills that that maybe make a great player together, but individually have some flaws.
I agree. You get a Justise Winslow, Josh Hart, Nassir Little combo. That's a
Throw in the hands of GP2, maybe.
Oh my goodness, that's Kawhi Leonard basically. That's maybe not the post game. Kawhi might have been too. Kawhi might have been too high. I might have gone too far. I went too far. I have written in my notes cautious over. I'm a cautious over on this, and
got a caveat.
Here's why. In 12.9 minutes last season with the Los Angeles Clippers in a very limited role, Justise Winslow averaged 1.4 assists per game. Dude dimes it up.
That's good.
So, that's 13 minutes a night. He's averaging like an assist and a half. If I think he plays 17 with the Blazers, I guess I'm penciling in one more assist. I'm penciling or a half of an assist. So I'm a cautious over. Okay. I'm a cautious over. I like this line from Ben. I think this is right at the line. 1.5, I'm easily over. 2, I have some trepidation there. Okay, over under Drew Eubanks, 3.5 rebounds per game.
Yeah, earlier mentions of lack of depth in the front court lead me to believe that Eubanks will be relied upon at times, at least.
Yeah,
I'm going over here. He's been solid kind of rebounder in his career.
Yeah, he has been. So I think you made a good point. I'm also over. If Drew Eubanks plays big minutes, he's going to grab a boatload of rebounds. And there's going to be nights when the Blazers, if Nurk isn't available, and I think throughout his career, Nurk's had some availability issues, as you mentioned earlier in the show. And those nights when Drew Eubanks is asked to play something like 20 minutes a night or whatever, he's going to grab a bunch of rebounds. He's a really good rebounder. When in year 2 with the Spurs, like his first real year in the league, after, came in and played some 10 days as a rookie, and then he had a 2-way contract where he kind of really cut his teeth with the Spurs early on. He averaged 3.9 rebounds a game in 12.4 minutes a night. So he played like 12 minutes a game, 12 and a half minutes a game, and grabbed 4 rebounds. I don't think he's going to have that big of a role with the Blazers. So maybe some garbage time will eat into his rebounding totals because he'll play 3 minutes. That counts as a game. He won't get a board, that type of thing. But I think you hit it on the head. Like I think he's out of the rotation, to be clear, to begin the season. I think Olivier Sarr jumped him in the rotation. But Olivier Sarr also hurt his wrist and is going to be reevaluated in a week. So guess what? Drew Eubanks back up in there, baby.
Step up.
Yeah, exactly. So it's like he actually probably did lose his job, and then an injury. Well, he's back. They probably have to play him some minutes if Sarr is not available. Some minutes, not a bunch. I'm over on 3.5 rebounds a game for Drew Eubanks. Okay, one more before we head to the third segment. Trendon Watford, 6.5 points per game on the year for Trendon Watford. Over under.
Under here, different shot opportunities this year compared to last year. Yeah, fresh off the Summer League championship, right? But feeling good skills. I like him as a player,
like him
really.
too,
I don't know if he'll get the opportunities to get there.
Same. I'm under as well. After he basically didn't play for the first 35 games last year. He just wasn't part of the plan. He was a undrafted player on a 2-way contract. Those dudes don't play very much.
It's tough.
So yeah. And then, but he got once the season kind of changed, he started playing for real in January 3rd. He basically played every game until he got hurt. He took that spill late in the year and ended his season. From January 3rd on, he averaged 21.1 minutes a night and scored 8.9 points. So he was at 9 points per game in a 20-minute role with the ball in his hands a whole bunch. I don't see that minute load. I don't see the usage level. I'm under on 6.5 for Trendon Watford.
Yeah, he was eating last year, but this year he's gonna be hungry.
Yeah. He's still the floater king, though. You see that? You see my man pulling up with one hand inside 15 feet. It's going in. But hard to live on a diet of floaters when you're not the main dribble handoff featured grab and go, empowered to do whatever guy. You kind of need to shoot jumpers or get rebounds. So we'll see where Trendon fits in. He also, he's been dealing with that hip flexor. He left the final preseason game with a hip flexor. The Blazers have not released an update on him, and the way they do things now, that's good news. They used to just now they send out like press releases if there's like a bad injury news. We got a press release today on on Gary Payton. We got a press release today on Olivier Sarr. No press release on Trendon Watford. That's good news for Trendon. The lack of press release is good news on Trendon. He's been dealing with that. I talked to him a little bit during one, I forget which one it was, but during one of the preseason games, and he said he's kind of been dealing with it for a little while. For basically, it's just kind of tightened up on him, and he took a spill in one of their mini camps, one of their games, the scrimmages that they're playing in their team in training camp. And he said it really started to bother him. And then he left early in their final preseason game. So I think Trend's going to be fine, but still I'm under on this. Okay. I got some more over-unders. We're talking young guys to close out the show. Join us in the third segment, won't you? Still a pass first point guard. Still Mike Richmond, and you are still listening to Locked On Blazers, still doing over-unders with my friend Chuck Charles Tuggle, courtesy of Ben Sprouse, at Ben Sprouse on Twitter, the over-under king to God. Charles is out here enjoying a beverage and making Blazers predictions. It doesn't get better than this. I'm telling you, this is one of my favorite episodes of the year, so share it with your pals. Okay, here's a big one. Over-under, 34.5 games played for Shaedon Sharpe.
Yeah, it's fanboy time again. I'm going over.
Let's do it. I'm
going over. Get this boy some run.
Yeah.
Let this young man do his thing.
Yeah.
Clear potential in him. Lots of talent. Exciting. He's got to play in some way or another.
Yeah. So would you say that Shaedon Sharpe reminds you more of prime Michael Jordan or pre-injuries Tracy McGrady?
Yeah. The actual comp that comes to my mind is a Paul George, which is also like very, very flattering. You just named obviously better players than Paul George, respectively, but Paul George is nice.
Can I say something that's going to sound like an insult that he reminds me of?
Say it.
Andrew Wiggins.
Andrew
Wiggins. Dude's a bucket.
You think there's some of that listlessness to him?
I hope not. Andrew Wiggins is coming off a monster postseason when he was the second best player on a championship team.
Amazing in the
Like,
playoffs.
he was so good. If you could read Charles and I's text messages, I'm saying like Andrew Wiggins it's like he's 20 minutes away from winning Finals MVP. What's happening?
Redemption arc, love it.
Yeah, obviously he didn't because like you saw what Steph Curry did in Game 4. It was over at that point. And Draymond came back and he was really good in the final three games of that series, and Clay was really good in the final couple games of that series. But like Wiggins was great in the playoffs. He was great. So I don't mean it as a slight.
No, I mean, even in those early listless days, Wiggins was productive.
A bucket, an absolute bucket from the
like
moment.
20 a game on like bad Wolves teams, but 20 a game.
From the moment he stepped out on the court, he could score in the league. I don't think Sharpe is that far along, but like Andrew Wiggins played a bunch of high level basketball. Like Andrew Wiggins was playing with Team Canada when he was 15, not like the senior team, but like he was playing in, high level international competitions as a 15-year-old. I saw him here in Portland at 15 and I was like, oh, this is the best teenager I've ever seen play basketball. So like that's for me, it's really high praise. Obviously Wiggins.
It is.
Yeah, obviously Wiggins played like high level Division I basketball at Kansas. Like he just had more reps. Same age coming to the league, a little older, but same 6 months range coming to the league, like more reps. I'm over on 34.5 games played. I think I said it on a podcast earlier this week. I think they should play Shaedon Sharpe every single night. Like they don't look very good. There's no reason to not play the young guy if you're not very good. If they were good and healthy and all those things, like I was saying early in the preseason, there's no room for Shaedon Sharpe. It's hard for good teams to play young guys. It's hard for good teams to like commit a bunch of minutes to a 19-year-old, and they still might not. But yeah, like play him, play young Andrew Wiggins as much as you can, because like he can become the second best player on a team that wins the championship.
Love that optimism.
Yeah, there you go. There you go. Second best player on the team that wins a championship in Portland. Let me be clear. He's not going to leave. He's not going to leave to go to the bright lights, big city of San Francisco. Okay. Over under 0.9 steals per game for Keon Johnson.
I'm going under here. I just don't know how much he plays.
He's going to play a lot early with no GP, right?
Yeah. I'm going under here, but I don't know him much as a player. So
yeah, he's definitely has
shot
good
in the
hands.
dark.
Yeah, he definitely has good hands defensively. I think one steal a game is a little aggressive, just because getting steals is hard. Like Keon Johnson could be a good defensive player and not. So I'm a cautious under also in this one. He's really active on defense. Like he's a really active player on defense. And I think with no GP for the first 2-3 weeks of the season and maybe longer, we'll see, but at least 2 weeks of the season, that's a bunch of minutes for Keon. Like that's a bunch. Like he's going to play 20 minutes a night or something off the bench. Like probably more than you would want him to, because he's still young and developing, and he's going to have nights where he looks really good. And like, he's a young player. He's just going to be inconsistent. He's going to have nights where he looks really, really bad. I think early in the preseason, he had some really good nights. And then the last preseason game against the Warriors, he had a pretty rough outing. And I think you're going to see that. I'm under on steals, but I do like Keon Johnson's defensive potential. I really like how active he is on defense.
A tangent really quick. Steals as a metric is a stat that I pay zero attention to.
Wow.
I feel like just at this point in time with how I view defense, or how we're like learning to measure defensive effectiveness in different ways. And I don't take much note of steals as far as like your old school box score stuff goes.
Right. Yeah.
Sometimes you just end up with the ball, man. Like
sometimes
it comes right to you when you're playing defense.
Or it's a sign that you gambled, right? It's a sign that maybe you didn't play good defense, that you're just like, Russell Westbrook was one among the league leaders in steals. I don't think he's ever been a particularly good defender. He's been impactful at times on defense.
John Wall early in his career had a lot of steals.
Right.
And he's probably blown by a lot too.
Yeah. Probably not a very good defensive player. Right. Yeah. Like it's like really good athletes who kind of cheat the system. Also like Chris Paul, very good defensive player, has been among the league leaders in steals. John Stockton has more steals than anyone will ever have again. And from the way they tell it, the greatest defender I never saw, the greatest defender I only saw after his 33rd birthday, because I was 10 in 1998. I that's interesting. I think that's a fun tangent. Like I think steals are a good indicator maybe early of, oh, hey, this guy plays defense, he gets after it. But in terms of being activity. Like, yeah, exactly. But it's maybe a bad indicator, not a bad, but it's maybe a less meaningful indicator when you get a little bit later on, because it's like, you could see it, right? Like you could just watch him play and it's like, is he playing good defense, or is this guy just like a ball hawk, steel hawk, or whatever it is? Okay, next one. Over under 32% from 3-point range for Jabari Walker.
Yeah, I'm going under here. I don't know much about this player. I mean, does he have a shooting stroke? Will he get enough run to get consistency and rhythm?
Or will he go
as a young player?
Yeah. 0 for 1 in one random game. Yeah, I feel that.
So that can be tough.
I'm over on this. I'm a pretty big Jabari Walker fan, I would say. Like, I just like his game. So this is me fanboying out on Jabari. He shot 39.9% on 150 college 3-pointers. That includes 34.5% on 104 threes as a sophomore. That's a pretty good volume. So
it did more research than I did.
Yeah, there you go. It's because I wanted to believe. I'm like,
but I'm sticking to my guns under.
Yeah. So I would say that the shot has looked, he's made some in preseason, and I'm not going to look. I have refused to look at the box scores in preseason, so I won't. But like, yeah, I don't think he's looked totally out of his depth shooting NBA threes. I worry that because he's going to have probably a pretty low minute role unless things go south, particularly early in the season for, first half of the year, it's a pretty safe bet that a 20-year-old drafted 57th is not going to jump into the regular rotation as much as fans might want. Everyone's like, why isn't Jabari playing more? It's like, he's 20 and he was drafted 57th. These dudes typically don't play. Like these are guys who develop and
how many
there.
shots can he get up if he does get a few minutes,
Totally. So
Sometimes
it's like
there are more important things to show as a young player,
Totally, him as a rebounder and all those things. Yeah. So I do think there's a chance that he goes like he has like a lot of nights where he goes 0 for 1 from 3. But if he goes 1 for 1 from 3, that's 100%, baby. It's 100%.
That's a good way to think about it.
Yeah, that's a little math. I know I got some math centric listeners. It's a little math
Solid.
for you. Yeah, that's some stupid math for you. Okay. We got a couple fun ones, and then we got a prediction. Over under 0.5 dunk contest appearances for Greg Brown III.
I'm going under here.
Yeah.
Presented to me as GB3. It actually took me like a few seconds to realize who that was. Do people regularly call him GB3? Or
on the broadcast, I noticed them calling him that, and I know his teammates call him GB, like for sure.
Okay,
they don't usually do the 3, but his teammates for sure call him GB.
Okay, no disrespect, Greg. I'm sorry, but those few seconds where I was thinking, I was like, for that reason, he won't be there because they go for more fanfare these days. Even it's younger players. Kid from Houston Green last year, Jalen Green.
Yep, Jalen Green.
Things like players like that. Even if you can jump.
Yeah, like Shaedon Sharpe is more likely to get invited than Greg Brown, right? Like if you're just gonna, yeah, exactly. I guess not since like the days of remember when Derek Jones Jr. made the dunk contest and he had played like something like 19 minutes for the Suns. He had appeared in like
multiple contests in the end.
It was like he like appeared in like 11 games, and it was like he appeared in 11 games. He's a freak athlete, and he played like 19 total minutes and makes the dunk contest. I have at this point no idea who he is. I'm like, oh, I didn't know. I don't like. I'm like, I feel like I know every player in the league, right? Like, and I'm like, oh, I do not know who that is. And then remember James Flight White. Remember him?
Oh yeah, James White, legend.
Yeah,
he also won the McDonald's High School American
dunk contest.
Dunk contest goat.
James White very well may have been in the league, so the Knicks could have someone compete in the dunk contest. I'm not 100% sure on that, but I think there's some truth that James Flight
an NBA
White,
corporate plug.
Flight White was in there, so the Knicks could have someone in the dunk contest. Didn't win it. Was
James
a pretty
Dolan,
good dunk.
MSG industry plant. James White. Guy can dunk. Sign him up. So like, I think there are times when guys have gone from like complete obscurity to make the dunk contest, but I think they're going the other way. They're trying to bring the dunk contest back and make it less crap because it has to have bigger players. It just has to, even if they're not better dunks. I feel.
Can I offer a tangent?
Go.
LeBron James's biggest failing is not doing the dunk contest.
He's so soft for that. I love LeBron.
It's cowardice garbage.
Ducked it for years.
Cowardice garbage. Ruined.
Should be little comments about it, around All-Star break. Oh, I don't know if I'll never do it. And like, dude, come on.
For a generation of hoopers not seeing the guy do the dunk contest, LeBron's obsessed with being MJ.
When he was like 23 or 24, he could have just done a whole bunch of powerful windmills and maybe like a free throw line dunk and won it easy, just with his name and it just is him as a player. He literally
could have just put on the MJ gold chain, done the worst free throw line dunk you've ever seen, and the world would like he was the best player in the league for like 7 consecutive seasons. Just go and do the dunk contest, you dummy.
It's weak. Yeah. The decision was better than that, than that indecision. Not
agreed. Jim Gray should have been there, spoon feeding him easy dunks. He should have had Jim Gray come on there and throw him a lob pass. LeBron, you idiot. No, just kidding. I'm like legitimately one of my all-time favorite players. I'm in a fantasy basketball league, and someone drafted LeBron James in my league relatively early, and they were like, I hate drafting players I hate. And I just texted them immediately off the chat of the thing, and I was like, I'm so sorry that you have to watch one of the most fun players of our generation on a regular basis. Like that stinks for you. Okay, super aside, and I'm letting you in on the inside that I do play fantasy basketball. I'm a nerd. You all, if you listen to the podcast, Okay, Olivier Sarr, this is the final one, and then we got a prediction. Olivier Sarr, 0.5 contracts converted to an NBA contract, over under. Basically, Olivier Sarr, who the Blazers announced today, got one of their two-way spots. They're leaving the other one open because they're going to sign someone else or whatever. Olivier Sarr, will he get his contract converted from a two-way deal to a regular NBA deal this season?
Yes, let's bet on him. Let's bet on young fella to cash those checks.
I'm over as well. Let's go.
You're tall. Sign him up.
He could shoot. I mean, in theory, he could shoot. I don't think we've seen him attempt some threes. I don't think we've seen him like ace a bunch of jumpers. He has made some, to be clear, but it's not like he hasn't made. I haven't watched him like hit 4 threes. He
shoots a basketball.
Yeah, absolutely looks comfortable shooting the ball for sure. And is big, has some defensive activity. Like I said, like pretty clearly was ahead of Drew Eubanks in the pecking order. Like I think he was the Blazers' backup center on opening night, but then he sprained his wrist in that preseason game against the Warriors, and now he's maybe, I guess just, he had a press release released about like. They gave the man a press release. That usually means the injury is relatively serious, or so I think he's probably not going to be ready on opening night, just based on how press releases work, which means he's not going to be there. But I'm thinking by the time the Blazers make some trades, they've got 14 roster spots. By the time they move some stuff around, Sarr is the guy who gets rewarded, and that's why they got him. So yeah, I'm with you. I'm over. I'm also betting on the big fella who started at Wake Forest. ACC legend before transferring to Kentucky. Okay, final one. Blazers win prediction. Over under 42.5 wins.
I'm going under here. This is the softy sad boy fanboy in me that just goes, oh, I've seen this show before. I checked my local betting site at their odds on the Blazers. The line was 39.5.
Let me stop you real quick. You checked Bet Online.
You probably have a line though, right?
Yeah, well, I'm going to stop you there because I know that the place that you went to is actually betonline.net. More lines, more props, more odds than anywhere else. It's Bet Online where the game starts. I know that's where you went to place your wagers. So their line was 39.5, let's say. So I was on a interesting
sort of variance there, isn't there?
Yeah.
And theirs.
Yeah, I think 39.5 is the one I've seen most commonly, even at other books that aren't betonline.net, the official betting partner of the Locked On Podcast Network. I would probably go over 39 and under 42.5, over 39.5, under 42.5. I think it's like a 40-win team. I was actually forced to do this in a public place, so I'm just going to stick with my guns. 42 is the number I had him at. Before I even saw Ben's over-unders, 42 is the number I had him at. I'm going to stick there. I would say the preseason has made me feel less confident about 42 wins, about them being a winning basketball team. But I don't want to bet against Dame, and because he's burned me in the past by overachieving a couple times. Typically has overachieved.
Hopefully he's back. And the West is so tough this year. If the Blazers go over Ben's line here, like they're in good shape. I feel like coming into the playoffs,
Agreed. If they win 43 games, they might finish like 6 or 7, right? Like 43 is going to be comfy in there, because I think teams are going to beat up on each other. I don't think there's a 60-win team in the West this year. Like, I don't think there's just one of those.
Yeah, that's interesting sort of question tangent here of who wins the West, kind of, and what sort of number of wins that is.
If I had to pick, like, I would go with one of, like, I don't think Phoenix will do it again because I think their vibes are bad. I think their depth took a hit because I have a bad feeling,
juju in Phoenix.
I have a feeling their vibes are bad. But I think depending on what happens with Jay Crowder, like he's like sitting out, because they're going to trade him. They just like, they need another forward. They just don't have that. They miss that size. Like when they had Crowder, they had pretty interesting depth. I think missing him and who they replace him with, I think campaign's fallen off. So I don't think it's Phoenix. I don't think it's Golden State. I don't think Golden State would win the West because I don't think they care about the regular season that much. They know what it takes to win in June. So I think they're going to have their foot off.
Denver's healthy. Do they roll off a bunch of wins this year? Regular season wins,
I was going to say, like,
and even then though, is that going to be like 55 or higher? I don't know. It's interesting Western Conference.
You know who I think is a sneaky team to maybe win the West with like 57 wins or whatever, or 52 wins or whatever it takes. It could be higher than that. It's gonna be like 55 is probably what wins it, is Minnesota. I think it's an outside chance Minnesota is that good. Rudy Gobert
just Utah Jazzes it.
Yeah, regular season juggernaut. As long as it isn't the playoffs where you can scheme him off the floor on any given night, like I think their defense is going to be really good. I think Anthony Simons, I'm going to call him Anfernee because I've been yelled at by calling him Ant so much. But I think Anthony Edwards has a chance to be like a all-star level player. Like he's really good. Obviously, Karl Anthony Towns really good. I really like the Kyle Anderson signing.
Yeah,
I don't know that I would.
Tough team.
I don't think I would pick them. Like I think I would rather pick Denver to like if I just like any random team to win the West, I would lean Denver, but I wouldn't be surprised if it's in that range.
And haven't mentioned Clippers or
right. The Clippers absolutely
or Luka's Mavs. So just to illustrate the point that 42.5 wins is 43 wins is great for the Blazers if that were to happen. I don't think they get there.
What's your number? Like, are they a winning team? Are they above 41? Are they above 4? Okay. 39.5. Where are you at?
Yeah, probably over the 39.5 line, but maybe right there at 40.
Yeah.
Right there at 500, kind of in that play on juicy, beefy playing zone that I wouldn't want the team to be in, but those games are pretty fun. So
yeah. It's
so I'd ride with it.
Yeah, exactly. It's like, it's not a good place to be. It's probably impossible to get out of the play-in and win a playoff series. Like that's just that's basically like if you're in the 9-10, like if you have to play 2 play-ins to get in, that's what do you play, like a 9-game playoff series and you're going to advance? Like that's a lot of winning. That's a lot of winning, to be certain. So it's also a lot of winning. And then you have to beat the number 1 seed in the West, who's like, the NBA, for the most part, is a meritocracy. Like the season is so damn long that like you get into the like good teams have home court advantage for a reason and they win because they're good. Obviously, there's injuries and stuff in the playoffs that change the whole thing, but like for the most part, it's meritocracy.
It's a long season. A lot is proven over 82 games.
Exactly. That's why they should shorten it to 66. We just don't need the other ones, but that's fine. That's for another day. That's for another podcast. But yeah, I probably have the Blazers like as in that 9-10 play-in range. When we did this exercise, me and you before this summer, we both had them in that same range. I don't think I probably felt better about them when I called them the 10th best team in the West than I do now. Which is like, but there was a time in the middle between those two moments when I did think they were better. I was like, man, I was pretty harsh on that show, like, let me rethink this. Like, okay, they could be a little better. And and the graph went up and then we're on the other side of the bell curve now. And it's like, whoops, I think they're not very good again.
A beautiful parabola of support or lack thereof.
I just didn't record any shows where I got to talk about how good they were. Like I did for sure. Like you could parse through it and see my optimism rise a little bit, but I'm low. I'm like, full disclosure, I'm lower on them now than I have been, just because I've watched them and I'm a little worried about them. What's your concern level with them? Like where are you with them?
I'm genuinely excited to see Damian healthy and hopefully like chippy on both shoulders kind of play. But just the defense is just so worrisome for me. Yep. I just don't know if this is sort of a solvable puzzle for this collection of players at the given moment. And then Chauncey Billups, I don't really have anything to say about him. Just hasn't been around long enough. And maybe that's a bad thing at this point too, that I'm sort of reserving judgment to see more. Worries about him as a coach, really, to get that defense together.
Yeah, I would say like it is pretty okay if even right now you say I have no idea what Chauncey Billups can do. Incredible question mark. Throughout last season, it was bizarre and not fair to him in year 1. And so far we've seen him coach 4 preseason games, so who knows? You could say, incomplete, but I don't think you could say he's been good. Like I don't think you could lean the other way. You could say, I don't know yet. And I think that's fair to not know yet, but to say he's been, I don't think anyone could like squint enough through those rose colored glasses and say he's been good. You could still have faith in him. Like I'm not poo-pooing faith in him, but like, we just don't have any bit of the sample sizes. It's like, yeah, he's pretty good at this.
Looks like a coach, talks like a coach.
Obviously it knows
plays like a coach
and
a player, but
obviously
see.
like incredible basketball mind, right? Like he's like,
ringing endorsement from Damian Lillard in that Ringer piece that we were discussing before we hopped on together.
Yeah, Logan Murdoch wrote a piece about Dame's loyalty. You've probably never. It's a new topic that's never been explored before. So if you want to learn more about,
there's
Dame's
even loyalty, more quotes about it. Could you believe it?
But Dame does. The interesting parts about that article are Dame's relationship with Chauncey and relationship with Joe Cronin. I think that's for sure. And the scenes where he's getting recruited by LeBron James to join the Lakers. I think for those reasons, I would recommend reading this story. For the Dame extremely loyal to Portland. Yes. He recently signed a 2-year, $122 million contract to remain here. You
can skim that paragraph or two and keep it moving.
Keep it moving, exactly. Charles, thanks for joining the show. I really appreciate it. Dear listeners, come back next week. The season starts next week. It's here. The NBA season is so fun. It's so fun. It is my favorite time of year. I'm absolutely super, super, super duper excited to watch hoops, to talk about hoops with you, to bring on my friends who cover the league and my friends who follow the league closely, and make this podcast a place that you can go every single day to enjoy being a fan of the Trailblazers, or make it more interesting to be a fan of the Trailblazers if things get a little bit dark. Let's be honest. We're trying to improve the fan experience. So join me every day, free on all platforms. Make it your first listen, and do me a favor. It's that time of year. Tell your friends about the show. The way people learn about podcasts is word of mouth. You say, hey, you listen to podcasts? Oh, not really, but I've thought about getting into it. Okay, check out Locked On Blazers. Tell them it's free wherever they get podcasts, and it's also on YouTube, so you can see the inside of my basement and Charles's apartment. Check us out. Tell your friends to check us out, and come back next week for 5 more shows. I appreciate you listening. I'll talk to you soon.